What is up? Welcome into this Thursday preview edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We're going to get to the full Week 14 slate of games this week. But first, in our first off the ball segment, going to touch on a couple things. First up, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Jacksonville Jaguars, goes on IR. He's going to have season-ending shoulder surgery, meaning Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback going forward for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And as it stands right now, well, they're picking number one overall. If you're a draft fan, you've seen the mock drafts. They have the number one overall pick as it stands. And with Mac Jones quarterback, man, they may not win another game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough sledding for the Jags, but it's good. I mean, this is something that they should have done earlier, seeing how their season was going. Trevor Lawrence banged up, obviously even more banged up last week. Get that guy right. I mean, your ship only goes as far as Trevor Lawrence will take you. Got to have him fully healthy coming into the season next year.
Who's a realistic head coaching candidate? I think everyone knows that Doug Peterson ain't going to be the guy, right? He's gone. Even if they're not going to fire him during the season, he's not coaching next year. I think most, if not all, also think Trent Baalke, GM there, will be gone. Shoot, he should be gone. Quite frankly, he's done one of the worst GM jobs in the NFL. I've been very vocal in my commentary towards his draft history and his free agent decisions. But they got 5 games left. They got the Titans, the Jets, the Raiders, the Titans, the Colts. It's like a super easy schedule. They realistically could win a few of these, even with Mac Jones at quarterback. Obviously, with no Trevor Lawrence, they're probably not going to be favored in a lot of those games, if any of those games. So still could end up with the number one overall pick. But who do we like to lead Trevor Lawrence and this offense? Because you've got some key pieces there. You have him. You have Brian Thomas Jr. now. That's the start of what could be a good offense. Now you just need the mastermind to put it all in place. So who do we like calling plays there for Jacksonville?
Well, first and foremost, I think the identity of that Jaguars team is the fact that they do have that quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. You talked about the young receiver in BTJ. You're going to want a guy that's a head coach, but an offensive head coach, and probably somebody that wants to call plays. I like Ben Johnson for the Detroit Lions, although I've heard that he may be waiting around to see some of these other jobs open up. As we know, Jacksonville is one of these teams where you can't really set your watch to them. I mean, they're good some years, and then they are abysmal some years. But with Trevor Lawrence, you have an opportunity to reinvent that roster, reinvent that offense. Do you agree with me on Ben Johnson? I think it's a small enough market for him to be able to go in there and do his thing and have success.
I'd be intrigued by that. Now, the problem is it's like he can name his place, his price with his track record as OC for the Detroit Lions, right?
Yeah.
So the Jaguars aren't bereft of big pockets, right? You know, Shad Khan can pay a lot for a head coach if he knows that he's the guy. But will he want to go to a place like Jacksonville that suffered such dysfunction over the course of that franchise's history, and not just like recently when he bought the team, but even before that? So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that's ideal. I would be interested.
It's a catch-22, Mike. It's a catch-22 because the Jags know that they need to do something to make a drastic change for that franchise. And then again, to your point, Ben Johnson doesn't want to go somewhere without solid footing. And if you go to Jacksonville as your first opportunity as a head coach and the landslide happens, which we've seen in Jacksonville a number of times, then what happens to Ben Johnson? Does he get another chance immediately?
Yeah, I do think they may have to take a flyer on a lesser known guy is where I think it's going to have to end up. Unfortunately for the Jacksonville Jaguars, just when you've ran through as many coaches as they have and as many, GMs as they have over the past decade, just not going to get a top coach of talent to be like, yeah, Jacksonville's my destination. I can be there the rest of my career. I just don't foresee that happening, unfortunately. All right, the other big news of note, the NFL has laxed some of their performance-enhancing substance regulations. I know you were a big fan of this one. Tell us what your thoughts are.
I like to make jokes about everything. So I was like, me and all my buddies who are bald and old and beat up, maybe we have a chance. But I think what Jonathan Jones's article was talking about was the fact that they raised the acceptable level of THC in your system. Obviously, marijuana is something that's been opened up on in the last decade in the NFL, and it was taboo for so long. But I think that once
your brother's been a very vocal proponent,
yeah, and I am as well. Because the alternative for a lot of these guys is alcohol, And as we know,
Yep.
alcohol has a very, very, very rough effect on your body, particularly for these elite level athletes. Training becomes an issue in the days following. Anytime you put alcohol into your system. But a lot of these guys, instead of opting into the pain medicines and the pregame injections and things of that sort that we've all come to know, that line out the training room before the game for Toradol. I think Toradol is still a thing that probably exists in the NFL, but more guys have gone for natural remedies for their sores, their aches, and maybe just to kind of calm their anxieties. It's tough when you play in the NFL. You're playing in front of 70,000 people. You win some, you lose some, you get beat more often than you win as a player individually. And I think it's nice to be able to switch gears when you get off the field. And, if a guy wants to go smoke a joint about it and take the edge off, people go home, coaches go home and have split a bottle of wine with their wife. Why can't a guy go home, smoke a joint, play a little bit of Madden, and just relax? I think it's good on the NFL, and it's more of a realistic approach. Obviously, if a guy tests positive, it's because they probably have an issue. We know when the tests are coming in the National Football League. There's a window from April 20th until the end of training camp that guys know is coming. It's year in, year out. It's the same. So if a guy fails to meet the standard for this test, which they raise the threshold of, it may raise some red flags about that guy. But good on the National Football League for doing this, because they understand that everybody has a unique way about going about their business.
Yeah, I had a few different takes on this. First being that, it's getting legalized across the country, and if a substance is legal across the country, and this isn't like Adderall, and Adderall probably will never be legal, but where it's actually going to help you if you take one before the game. If you start smoking a joint before the game, you're not gonna.
You're in trouble.
Your play is going to be improved. Whereas if you take stimulants, that could legitimately help you out on the football field.
Yeah.
So this isn't a performance-enhancing substance by any means. It is just a substance that, I can sit here and say, no one should be smoking, no one should be drinking if you're in the NFL. If I was in the NFL, I would be straight edge. It's no, there's I can't put myself in an NFL player's shoes and know what it's like to have that kind of pressure on you week in and week out. There's a reason a lot of people turn to substances that are even worse, far worse for you than marijuana. And I do think a lot of the career length and longevity we're seeing nowadays from players is the fact that they're not drinking nearly as much as they were back in the day.
100%.
That people have not only from a, hey, we've learned how to take care of our bodies perspective, but also just the culture around alcohol has shifted drastically from what it was back then. Some of that due to social media, and that if you're out drinking as an NFL player, you're a target nowadays. To be put on, someone's Instagram story, but also just because I think we know far more than we did back then about how alcohol and the inflammation that it puts into your body, that it creates, is just the worst thing you could do if you're an NFL player, right? You're already inflamed to the gills after a game. To go out drinking and whatnot after that, well, you're only just setting yourself back years.
And I think about what's the worst decisions you can make for each of these situations. And if you're drinking, the list is very long of bad decisions you can make as a player. And it can not only cost you and your family, it could cost your team, it could cost somebody else's family. If you go home and have a joint, I think one of the worst things you can do is probably buy a new Fortnite skin or order a cheesy gordita lunch at 11 o'clock delivered on one of these apps. It's good to see the NFL's moving forward, and I think we're in a good place here with the policy. I don't think it necessarily needs to change any further.
All right, this Sunday, the NFL on CBS highlights the push to the playoffs, featuring an AFC North matchup between the Browns and the Steelers, or a key NFC West showdown for first place when the Cardinals face when the Seahawks face Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. That's CBS Sports Sunday. It all begins at noon Eastern with JB and the guys on NFL Today. The NFL is on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. All right, we got 15 games to hit. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back after this.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got two thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
All right, before we get to the games, let's take a look at our locks from a week ago. Kyle, well done. Going 2-1, hitting Philly and New England. Josh Jacobs over, sadly, doesn't hit. I started off hot with the Bowers over, but then Minnesota, Seattle, and the Jets under. Well, as soon as they had that kick return fumble sequence, I was like, okay, that was about the worst sequence possible for and under. And, well, that one did not take. We'll get to our locks for this week at the end of the show. And we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. Packers, Lions, 3.5-point favorites at home. 51.5 points is the over-under in that one. Injuries of note: no Romeo Doubs, Jair Alexander, or Edgerrin Cooper for the Green Bay Packers. On the flip side, though, for the Lions, no Taylor Decker at left tackle, no Josh Pascal, Levi Onwuzurike, or DJ Reed along that defensive line. So Lions are hurting in the trenches. Packers are hurting at the skill positions. How do we see this one playing out?
You know, it was unfortunate because obviously I had the lock for Josh Jacobs last week and he wasn't able to go over that. A lot of volume, not a lot of production. I think in this matchup, with the injuries we're talking about to the defense for the Detroit Lions, Matt LaFleur is going to do his due diligence to run the football with Josh Jacobs. I really feel like the defense's ability to have gap integrity for the Detroit Lions will be the determining factor in this football game. You and I both know some of these retread running backs are exceptions to the rule. Saquon, Derrick Henry, they're just freaks. And Josh Jacobs, while he is an elite back, he is not in that category. I think the marriage of him and Matt LaFleur's ability to scheme up these runs, get these offensive linemen, like we talked about on the show, in positions that are advantageous in terms of leverage, in terms of double teams, that will be the determining factor. And we know the Detroit Lions want to go out and bully people. How do you fight fire? You fight fire with fire. And their fire in Green Bay is Josh Jacobs in that offensive line.
Yeah, I am worried about the Lions' defensive front in this one because you still have your two best players, right? I think Aleem McNeil, Zadarius Smith. I think in terms of rushing the passer, they'll be able to affect Jordan Love. Yes. But run defense is a different animal. Run defense is we need all 7 guys in the box, all 8 guys in the box to be doing their job. If one guy doesn't, that's when you can leave a crease. Like all it takes is one. All it takes is one in run defense to leave you liable. And you look at who's going to be out there in the middle of this Lions defense: Pat O'Connor, Al-Qadim Muhammad, maybe Broderick Martin.
Yeah.
It ain't good. This could be, and especially when you're facing a rushing offense like the Packers, that's been one of the best in the NFL this season. I do think it's going to be ground and pound on both sides. I think it will be a game, and that's why I kind of like the under in this one, 51.5 points, where I think we just see sustained drive. Kind of like when the Packers faced the Bears a few weeks back, where it was a low-scoring game, but it's because everyone held the ball for like 6 minutes at a time when they got it. And I think that's how this one ends up playing.
They don't want to give each other the ball. It's like when I played Madden. It's like you go to coaching changes, you press chew clock so that you're going to wind that thing down, get the exact right call, and we're going to try to stay on the field as long as we can because each of these teams knows how dangerous the other is with the ball in their hands. So to your point, I think it is going to be one of those drain the clock, limit possessions type of football game.
That being said, this may be the homer in me, but it's the way the Packers are playing of late, past 2 weeks, 30-plus points, blowing out the 49ers, blowing out the Dolphins, and they obviously the 49ers without their starting quarterback. But I think they're on equal footing right now, especially with the injuries. Like it's full strength. If you had Taylor Decker, if you had your left tackle, that would be a different story. But it's your left tackle. Like that's a big injury to have in the game against the Green Bay Packers. So I think they're on equal footing. With that being said, if you're on equal footing, 3.5 points is a lot to be giving up in the NFL. I like the Packers on this side. I liked them last time, unfortunately, and they got their ass kicked. But that was a weather game. Fluky. No weather in a dome. Give me the Packers in this.
And you know what? I'm in agreement with you on the Packers and as it pertains to them being on level footing. And the Taylor Decker thing is really important because what this Detroit Lions team likes to do is they like to roll guys off the ball, off the line of scrimmage in the run game. And then they get those heavy play actions with Jared Goff. One of the hardest things in football at the offensive tackle position is going and setting these guys in play action. You have to give a run fake to these defensive ends. It's not a token fake. It's an aggressive run action. Taylor Decker, really good at it. The backup, it's yet to be seen what his plan is there. I'm interested to see his technique going in those heavy play actions, because if you don't get it wrong, you can die a really quick death at tackle trying to go get these guys a good run fake in the play action game.
Hopefully Lucas Van Ness has himself a day. He has not been great for the Packers this year, but I think his best games have come over the past couple weeks for the Green Bay Packers. All right, one thing of note for this game, a little bit of trivia for you. If the Lions win, Jared Goff will be one of 3 quarterbacks in NFL history to have 11 wins with 2 different teams, 2 different times. So
wow,
11 wins, 2 different teams in 2 different seasons for each of those teams.
Brett Favre.
No, he didn't get to 11 twice with the Vikings.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning's one of them.
And
the other one's come on. The other one, like when you say it, you'll be like
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, sir. Tom Brady.
I was going to say Jay Cutler, but I don't know if he had 11 wins twice in Chicago. I know I don't even know if he had 11 wins in Denver, but that's a guy.
I don't think he ever got 11 in Denver.
Teams.
That was why Shanahan got fired, was because they just didn't win, even though he was kind of balling. They had a terrible defense, though. I
watched one of these TikToks yesterday about Peyton Manning and how, like, at the end in Indianapolis, and then all the physical ailments that he went through, and then like the redemption arc of him in Denver. It's just crazy. That guy was unbelievable. How lucky we were to see him in Denver in that final run.
They kind of made everyone think that Manning and Brady, that like you can just go to another team and just like you'll be the same guy. It's like, no, I think those guys were just different animals, you know.
Well, Peyton Manning had to relearn how to throw the football. I mean, the guy had nerve issues that were not just pain. It was like your physical capability to throw the football, hold the football, use your technique. So, I mean, I heard about that all the time from Adam Gase when he came to Chicago, how impressive 18 was. And I mean, incredible.
You made Adam Gase a lot of money. That's for damn sure. All right, let's get to Raiders at Bucks. Bucks 6.5-point favorites at home. 46.5 points is the over under. Not a lot to talk about here in this one for the Raiders side. Besides the fact that Max Crosby hasn't come off the field now in, 8 straight games?
He's an animal.
No, 5 straight games he hasn't come off the field.
He's a caveman. He's just somebody that's not aware that everybody else takes breaks. And God, I just respect Max Crosby so much. He plays the game the right way. And guys in my dad's era, they didn't leave the field either. And I think he's just such a throwback. Somebody spawned him out of a time machine, and he just showed up and he kicks ass every week and he doesn't complain. Obviously, he's frustrated not winning and being part of an organization that isn't top tier, let's say. But Max Crosby is exemplary every week. And, they got a handful of these guys in Las Vegas, albeit they're not a great football team. They have some really great players. So they can rest on that, knowing that they have those leaders on both sides of the football.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to see a little more AOC in this one, because he didn't look too bad a week ago, right?
Nope.
And, again, they don't have a lot of receiving talent after trading away Devontae Adams. I'm not saying he's the future there, but if he wins you a few games down the stretch, all of a sudden you're not in this quarterback class again. And then they have a weird situation on their hands where do they roll into next year with, what they just had this year with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. So I'm just interested to see, because this Bucs defense, obviously a lot of people have carved them up over the course of this year. They are susceptible on that side of the football. So
this game's all about Tampa Bay, ain't it? This game's all about Tampa.
But it's Tampa and the fact that they have a really nice road to NFC South champions.
Yes, and I mean, they almost fell stepping off the boat last week. They're like, oh, the beach, land, we can do this. And they got to the dock and they almost tripped and hit their teeth on the dock. Thankfully, a bad call on Adam Thielen, a fumble by Chuba Hubbard leads them to win. Now it's starting to feel like maybe they are a team of destiny. Mike Evans back in this lineup. He's going to have some real great production to get to 11 straight 1,000-yard season. Sorry, my dog is barking. I think he sees my wife outside. It's all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we said this a few weeks ago. They're probably going to catch the Falcons. And now the Falcons trending down, the Bucs rolling. And they're one of these teams that nobody wants to see. So they have to handle their business against the Las Vegas Raiders, and I fully anticipate them to do that.
Yeah, if they just handle business, like if they just win the games, they're going to be favored in because they have 5 games left. 4 they're for sure going to be favored in. Raiders, Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. They will be the favorites in all of those. If they just handle those, they can lose to the Chargers next week, and no one bats an eye. They make the playoffs. Tampa Bay Bucs. I even like them to cover 6.5 in this game, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
The over.
I like them covering
the over. All right, on to the Browns at Steelers. Steelers 6.5-point favorites. 44.5 points is the over-under. If you think that's a big line, well, the Steelers are the second best team in the entire NFL against the spread this year. 9-3. They continually handle their business. For the Browns, no Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And for these quarterbacks, both coming off 400-plus yard games a week ago. Do we think the Browns have a chance even after they beat them just a few weeks back on Thursday Night Football?
I totally think they have a chance. I mean, this is a divisional rivalry. You know what I'm saying? This is 2 teams that really hate each other. And although the Pittsburgh Steelers are 9-3, the Cleveland Browns are 3-9. Pete Prisco likes to say that you are what your record shows. That's not the case with the Cleveland Browns because they put themselves behind the 8 ball with their quarterback situation early. It's obvious that this team rallies around Jameis Winston. He gives them a chance to win every week. He also gives the other team a chance to get a couple interceptions. But at the end of the day, he can get out there and match productivity with any quarterback. You know, just a week ago, I said, I don't think that Russell Wilson can match production from Joe Burrow. And he went out there and did just that. And, you know, I was a little bit embarrassed by that. Let's just see if Russell can do it 2 weeks in a row because we know Jameis is going to come out firing. These 2 teams do hate each other. It's going to be a great one.
Honestly, I think this is disrespectful to the Browns. 6.5 points. They just beat them. Yeah, it was at home, but it was in a snowstorm. Yep. They hung with them and just looked like the better team in that game. And with Jameis Winston, this is a good team. It's again, they're much, much better than their record because much of that record did not come with Jameis Winston at the helm.
Yes.
They were up with what? A couple minutes, just over 2 minutes left in that game a week ago against the Denver Broncos. Like, this is a team that is talented enough to hang with anyone. So 6.5 points to me is just a disrespectful line. I like the Browns from that standpoint alone that that's a big win. That's a big number to beat them. So I like the Browns to cover that. And I also kind of like the over in this game. I think points will be put on the scoreboard. Jameis Winston's just king of over football. He's either throwing it touchdowns to his own team or the other team. Either way, points will be put on the scoreboard.
Yeah, he's helping the over. And I like the Browns as well to cover. I could totally see the Steelers winning this game, but that's a lot of points, to your point. It's disrespectful. In a division game like this, I would anticipate being 4.5 at the most, but here we are.
I do have to give, before we move on to the Jags Titans, Arthur Smith, offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, much maligned guy over the course of his Falcons career. He has them as top 10 offense in the NFL right now. He has to deserve, what's the assistant coach of the year? Like he deserves some consideration for that because what he's done with an offensive line that has been completely banged up this year, definitely not what they thought it would be. It's got rookies starting at multiple spots. It's just on paper, you would have thought this is a bottom 5 to 10 offense line in the NFL. Has them playing above that. It has one wide receiver on the outside that people respect. It is not an offense that people thought was a top 10 unit, and they've shuffled between 2 different quarterbacks, and still they are a top 10 unit in the NFL. Have to give him a shout out for what he's done this year. All right,
I'm glad. Hey, hold on. You mentioned Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
He could end up being the Chicago Bears head coach.
You think he gets another chance that quickly?
I could totally see him being a name that ends up being talked about in the coming months, coming weeks here for this Bears job. I mean, I know I've heard a lot of other names, but the way that he proved that it probably wasn't him in Atlanta was impressive. To your point about this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, it ain't Mike Tomlin in the meeting room with Russell Wilson every day. You know what I'm saying? Like Mike Tomlin gets to deal with the offensive players on the field, but day in, day out, meeting in, meeting out, it's Arthur Smith and it's that offense. And there's a reason that they've had success. And I think that, to your point, he deserves all the credit in the world and maybe even another opportunity at head coach spot.
All right, Jags at Titans. Trevor Lawrence obviously goes to IR. That means the Titans are 3.5-point favorites. 39.5 points is the over-under. And there's been no team in the NFL worse against the spread this season than the Tennessee Titans. Only covered 3 times. Obviously, a season that they had higher hopes for than this. Gone wrong in a lot of different ways for Tennessee. But maybe they can make it up down the stretch here. Because Will Levis, past couple weeks, is kind of what people thought we'd see this whole season. Now, he's not perfect by any means, but I think people thought that he could at least lead a competent-ish offense, that at least he could look like, one of the best 32, maybe not one of the best 16, but one of the best 32. I think the past couple weeks he's looking like that. And there's no better defense to look like that against than the Jacksonville Jaguars and one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. Now, they've been better with Tyson Campbell and their full complement of corners back there, but still, this defense has issues, especially against crossers, play action stuff that Tennessee may employ in this game. So how do we see this one playing out?
Well, I could totally see Will Levis hitting the rushing over in this one. You talk about crossers and stuff like that. He likes to play hero ball, and you talked about him being boomer bust, and he has kind of come on the last few weeks. And I think in a game like this where Trevor Lawrence is not on the field, they're going to be outmatched, or the Jaguars are going to be outmatched at the quarterback position. I think it allows Will Levis to relax a little bit, play a little bit more free, understand that he doesn't have to match a guy like T-Law, and he's going to be going against Mac Jones. So I think it bodes well for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I think so as well. The Jags offense with Mac Jones at the helm has been putrid to watch. Difficult. I don't even like making it through the all 22 of those games is a slog, unfortunately. But I am buying a little bit into what we've seen from Will Levis of late. Now, the sacks, if he takes 7 sacks in this game, I don't think I'd bat an eye. Like that's honestly probably where it's going to end up. If we had to
part of the experience
to set an over-under for his sacks in this game, 4.5. And it's not as if the Jags have been 5.5. That's where, so you're taking the over, you're pumping the over. Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's how he's playing right now. But if you set the over-under for deep completions in this game, I'd probably set it at
3.5. Yeah.
It's like he's going to have a handful. So that's just the style of football he's playing.
It's a polarizing brand of football. I can't even imagine being a Titans fan. I'd have to go see my cardiologist weekly. It's akin to being a Bears fan, taking an 18-yard sack and then throwing a 25-yard completion. It's just unbelievable.
It's the kind of football that you love as a casual football fan, but not as like a fan of that team. Like if you just if you have no rooting interest in the Tennessee Titans, and I obviously do not, if you have no rooting interest in the Tennessee Titans and you just want to flip on a game, you're happy that Will Levis is playing, right?
Yes.
Mason Rudolph may have run that offense like better than Levis did at times.
Boring.
But no one wants to see Mason Rudolph out there. That's
no offense to Mason Rudolph. It's just I want some, I want a colorful quarterback out there.
But Levis, if you're watching him though as a Titans fan, you're like, God damn it, this guy stopped running in to a defensive tackle who's like directly in the hole that you're trying to get through. Just frustrating stuff. All right, let's move on to Panthers Eagles, a game where no one is frustrated with their quarterback at this point in time. Maybe the Eagles fans actually, but the Eagles 12.5-point favorites. 45.5 points is the over under in this one. Saquon Barkley now is on pace 21-23. That would be breaking Eric Dixon's record of 21.05 rushing yards. And he faces, including this week, 4 of the 6 worst run defenses in the NFL. Panthers obviously being the worst in the NFL this season. Only one other team in NFL history has had the league's leading rusher and the number 1 total defense, the way the Eagles have right now, and it was the 1992 Cowboys who were Super Bowl champions. It's a good combination. If you're talking about how do I win a Super Bowl, that's a good combination to have.
Oh, okay, so DJ Wanham this week, he said that Saquon Barkley is human. Why?
Correct. Not something I want. I don't want to like.
What are we doing?
But
I do see this as a big number, and with Bryce Young, the way he's been playing, I see it as an opportunity for him to go out there and put together another impressive showing. I mean, he did it against the Chiefs. He did it last week against Baker and the Carolina Panthers. We've been impressed with Bryce Young, and I think that's really the story with Carolina is how they're going to fare against this team that some of us have argued is the tops in the National Football League. And for the Eagles, it'll tell me a lot about this team. If they can smash the Panthers, I even more firmly believe in them, obviously, but you can't allow this to be a letdown week. To your point, you've got history you're chasing at the running back position, and you've got momentum that's kind of freakish with the Philadelphia Eagles right now. You got to keep it rolling. In a game like this, you can't be looking on to the next opponent, and you have to be able to beat them by what the number says.
Yeah, the Eagles, I don't love the 12.5 just because they're not built right now to completely blow teams out. They're built to just win. And they could have a win that looks utterly dominant on the football field and it end up being by, let's say, 11 points and not covering that number, right?
Worst run defense, best rushing attack.
Yes.
Not only that, best second half rushing attack. I mean, Saquon Barkley's got over 1,000 yards, I think, in the second half of football games right now. So when you think about playing against this team, you're going to give them your best shot in the first half, and you find out very quickly if you can maintain or not as a defensive front. And once you get that inkling that they ain't stopping, and Mekhi Becton and Lane Johnson are rolling off the football and double teaming your guys to oblivion, it's a tough thing to sit on in the second half. Now, I never played defensive line in the NFL, but I've been part of some offensive lines that run the ball particularly well in the second half, and it's a damn good feeling. When you possess that as a football team, you are supremely confident. Add to the fact that you have good O-linemen, that Saquon Barkley's back there. I really like our chances. It's a big number, but I could totally see the Eagles doing this because most of the time people are running the ball in the second half to drain that clock. They're running the ball because they can score when they run the football. So true. I love the Eagles in this one.
I like the under in this one a lot, though. No one scores in the Eagles right now. Did you tell me the Panthers are going to be the team that bucks that trend? I don't think so. And then if, so like the market with the prediction right now, they're predicting like a 29-16 game is what that number says with the spread and the over-under at 45.5. I don't think the Panthers get to 16. And I also like the Eagles getting to 30 is not something they routinely do either. So I really like the under, but this is going to be great tape to watch for Bryce Young. So good of late, but he will be under fire in this one. He will not have clean looks in this one. This is, to me, going to be the first like test. And maybe not necessarily fair to say, but like, how does he, when things really probably are going to be going south for him, how does he recover? And how does he?
I know how Vic Fangio does his meetings. I know Vic Fangio appreciates a redemption arc from a player, but there's nobody who's pounding home. Remember that John Gruden intro he did for the Raiders? He's like, everybody's got a dream. I got a dream to go to the Pro Bowl. I got a dream to go to this and that. I'm into nightmares. Well, I think that Vic Fangio is a nightmares type of coach, and he wants his guys to be that way. And regardless of how nice it is to see Bryce Young play well, I really feel like they're going to hammer home the point that they need to get after this guy early. He feels like they can probably shut him down early and often, and that will limit the Carolina Panthers.
All right, we'll take a quick break after that. Going to get to Falcons at Vikings. Technically a playoff matchup as it stands right now, but, well, we'll see how it goes.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
All right. Falcons at Vikings. Vikings 5.5-point favorites at home. 46.5 points is the over-under. Kevin O'Connell now in one-score games over his career. 24-9. Third best in NFL history. I don't think this is going to be a one-score game, though. Now, I've been on the Vikings of late, and they've kind of just been eking it out. They haven't really blown anyone out, but I don't see Kirk Cousins in his current form doing anything against this Brian Flores coach defense for the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I love the Vikings and I love the under in this one.
So Kirk Cousins is going to have to be immediate with the football with the way that Brian Flores likes to pressure quarterbacks. Obviously, we know that Kirk can't move the way that he used to be able to move, and he didn't move very well back then anyway. But now with what we're going to be getting from this Vikings front, particularly the pressure package, but you add to the fact that a guy like Jonathan Grenard is like tops in the NFL in pressures right now. They don't even have to manufacture the pressure with those second level defenders. I think that we're going to see a lot of bluffing, a lot of showing your hand. So the defense is going to force the offensive line to show their hand with protection and points. They may drop out of there. Kirk Cousins could be seeing some ghosts. We talked about potentially seeing Michael Penix in this game. I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately for the Falcons, whoever rolls out there at quarterback, I think that it may be too much defensively from a scheme standpoint. And now with these guys coming along individually for the Minnesota Vikings, I think you just go scheme out the window and let these guys go win some matchups.
Yeah, I hammered it home a little bit earlier this week, but Kirk Cousins in the 10 games that he's faced, not the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? Because we all know he just crushed the Bucks this year. But those 10 other games, he's averaging 220 passing yards per game. He has 9 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. PFF's big time throw stats, he has only 6 big time throws compared to 17 turnover worthy plays in those games, an 80.4 passer rating. That's awful, man. That's worst quarterback in the NFL comparable, adjacent sort of numbers as a passer when he faces anyone that's not the Tampa Bay Bucks. And while the Minnesota Vikings definitely ain't the Tampa Bay Bucks walking through that door, I could see this one going as south as it did a week ago against the Chargers. Now it's a big revenge game for him. He'll be up as much as he can be, but that honestly might be worse. You know, it's Kirk Cousins taking more chances right now. I don't think he needs any more fuel to be throwing some of the balls he threw a week ago.
Yeah, and I think we could be looking at a game where Kirk Cousins could turn the football over a number of times. We know that pressure often leads to errant throws. Errant throws often lead to interceptions. Nobody does it better than Minnesota Vikings. You're going to have to take care of the football. Take care of yourself in the pocket, but take care of that football when you're taking care of yourself, because the Vikings can flip it around on you really quick.
All right, let's get to Jets at Dolphins. Dolphins 6.5 point favorites. 44.5 points is the over-under. The Jets,
this one's interesting.
If they lose this game, officially eliminated from the playoffs. Now, they've been officially eliminated in my heart for about 4 weeks now. They're dead. They're dead in the water, even if they win this game. But this will obviously put a true nail in the coffin if they do. And man, I agree that this is an interesting game. I think there's a lot of intriguing matchups that I want to see. But I think Tua's playing well right now. And I think against this Jets defense, the kind of things that they want to do defensively that scare me, which is like, you know, they rush the passer at a pretty high rate. Like they have guys who can win quickly. They have corners on the outside that are good in man coverage, but it's like you can't play man coverage against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, right? It's just like, I don't care how good you are, you just don't do that. So I think the Dolphins match up pretty well. And yeah, 6.5 is a big number, but I think this Jets team's so defeated that I think this ends up being a blowout, honestly.
Yeah, they've been, the Jets have been through so much as a football team this season, last season. It just really starts to wear on you. I've been on teams like this where there are great expectations and you don't even near meet them. It is a depressing feeling. And for the Miami Dolphins, they're trying to get the taste out of their mouth from last week. Everybody and their mama was calling them soft. They can't play in the cold. They can't do any of this stuff. Well, now they get an opportunity to go win this football game. I fully anticipate them to have a great game plan, get those backs involved, screen game. It's always impressive. Mike McDaniel never fails to impress me with some of the stuff that he schemes up. As an offensive lineman, it makes life really easy when you got a guy like Mike McDaniel, but more importantly, Tua Tagovailoa, getting the football out quickly. That's the best friend of this offensive line. I fully anticipate to see that.
It is amazing to me, to go to the flip side here, just how much the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams combination has been non-existent. Like just never came to fruition. Their chemistry did not pick up where it left off objectively, but also just like hasn't developed over the course of the season.
Maybe they're spending too much time. They shouldn't live together. They should just be like separate. They should lose the bunk beds. Maybe lose the bunk beds, get together only on the field.
And we get these research packets here from CBS every single week. And pretty much every week they hammer home this one, that Aaron Rodgers has not had a 300-yard passing game since week 14 of the 2021 NFL season. It's been, if he doesn't have it this week, right? If he doesn't go for 300 this week, it will have been 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years since his last 300-plus yard passing game. Any guess who that 300-yard game was against, though?
The Bears.
Yeah, it was the Bears. Yeah.
Thanks. And I think that was the "We Own You" game. I still own you. You remember that?
Yeah.
God, that pissed me off.
Was he wrong?
Aaron Rodgers. He is the bad guy.
Yeah. Well, to you.
No one knows what it's like.
Saints at Giants. Giants 3.5-point favorites. 41.5. Excuse me, dogs. Giants aren't going to be favorites against anyone the rest of the year. 3.5-point dogs. 41.5 points is the over/under in this one. Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna bet against the Giants every single week until someone actually puts a real line to reflect how little they care at this point. They don't care. They're not trying. They got dog walked on Thanksgiving. I think it's going to be even worse than that against New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints are at least putting up a fight here down the stretch.
Yep.
Still
physical group up front, and when you're a physical dude, that doesn't leave you. If your chances of making the playoffs go, if you're a physical offensive lineman, you're going to show up and be that all the time. I fully anticipate them to try to get after this Giants front. I heard Kayvon Thibodeau talking this week about who gets a say in these locker rooms. He's like, if you make plays, you get to have a say. And if you don't, you don't. And I was like, you know what, Kayvon? That was actually pretty brilliant and succinct. They're looking for guys who can make plays for this New York Giants team. Obviously, Drew Lock is going to be trotted out at the quarterback position. They want a guy like Malik Neighbors to be able to play well. Kayvon Thibodeau, their leaders. And at the end of the year, when you're a 2-win team, a 3-win team, you're going to need these leaders to step up because obviously they're thinking about next year. But if we can't get an inkling that you're going to show up for us even in these bad spots, we don't have faith. We don't have faith in you moving forward. So I anticipate the Saints to win this football game and do so physically at the line of scrimmage. I worry about this Giants team, and I feel like that's an evergreen comment. But the Giants, the Jets, all these New York teams. Oh, actually, the only New York team is the Buffalo Bills. But these two New Jersey teams, they concern me all the time. Yeah,
I like the Saints, and I like the Saints big in that one. All right, Seahawks at Cardinals. Cardinals 2.5-point favorites. 44.5 points is the over/under. These are two of my favorite bets of the weekend. I didn't end up making locks of the week. They got cut for other ones that I like more, but I love the Seahawks, and I love the under in this one. They've been playing. I mean, we just saw it a few weeks back, right? A big-time under game, 17 to, 9 at the end of that game, and that was with the pick six. Seahawks defense is elite right now. Yep. I don't know if Vegas or the general public has caught on to the fact that this is one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Mike McDonald built a bully.
They had a lot of injuries early on in the season, but this front four, this defensive line is healthy, and they go 6 deep in guys that can legitimately win one-on-ones given a favorable matchup. And that's a recipe for success, especially, again, with Mike McDonald and the way he schemes it up on the defensive side of football. So I love the Seahawks in this one. And they've just been different also since Abe Lucas came back to the lineup. 3 starts at right tackle. He's given up 6 pressures in those 3 starts. That is half the pressure rate that was at right tackle before that when it was Stone Forsythe, when it was Mike Jarrell. Yeah. That cannot be understated how much when Geno Smith doesn't have to worry about his front side getting caved in every single play, how much more comfortable he can be in that pocket.
Yeah, we talk about it often. People have said throughout the course of history that the blind side is the most important position on the offensive line because, there's some truth to this. You get the strip sacks. We've talked about it. You can get the football when the quarterback doesn't see you coming. But in my opinion, that front side tackle, that right tackle is everything because you are in the vision of the quarterback every single time he has the football. And if he doesn't have an ounce of confidence in you, your entire offense takes 1, 2, 3 steps back in terms of production, in terms of explosiveness. And with Geno Smith, if you can give him a little bit of time, we know that he has tremendous arm talent, and they do have those receivers on the outside to make hay. But for me, the matchup's all about this. Can you stop Leonard Williams? Can you get Leonard Williams handled at the line of scrimmage? Because if you don't, if you get a guard on an island, if you get a tackle getting picked, Leonard Williams will blow up your entire operation. And against the Arizona Cardinals last time, he had 4 quarterback hits, 2.5 sacks on Kyler Murray, one of the toughest guys to bring down in the National Football League, Kyler Murray. Not tough to bring down, tough to get. And he got him. And last week, Leonard Williams had an NFC Defensive Player of the Week performance. He had a pick 6 that went 90 yards. I think he broke 20 miles an hour on that one. He's been amazing, and I think that kind of confidence, those kind of performances will lead him to just have another one. He just wants to have a seamless transition, dominant game, dominant game, dominant game. If you don't have a plan for Leonard Williams, he will ruin your game plan.
Yeah, I will say Cardinals, their defensive game plans under Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rallis, DC, like they have been awesome of late. That's also why I like the under so much in this one, is that the Cardinals have done more with less than any other defense in the NFL. And so I fully expect another low scoring game, even if like they just saw each other. And when you just see each other, maybe you have like, especially from like the quarterback position, you have probably a better read than you did the first time around. But I just think the way these two defenses are playing, still love the under.
And they're two teams that are traveling different directions in the elevator shaft, right?
True.
The Seattle Seahawks team is like the Cardinals. They lost a tough physical matchup to the Seahawks team, and then they went and they lost by 1 point to the Minnesota Vikings. It's been a tough 14 days for this team, and it gets even tougher when they play the Seattle defense, which has real horns now.
On to the Chicago Bears at San Francisco 49ers. Niners, 3.5-point favorites. 44.5 points is the over-under. Some reinforcements may be coming for the 49ers. We had Talanoa Hufanga coming back off IR. Limited yesterday. Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, hasn't played since that Super Bowl injury coming off the sideline. Achilles tear. Limited in practice as well. So if those two are back.
I forgot that's how it happened. Fuck,
it was so
terrible.
Sad.
Oh,
I mean, and they had the cameras like right behind him as he's doing it. Truly just a deflating moment. I remember the people like standing around him afterwards. Like you could see they lost like in that moment. Like the gas just came out of the balloon for the San Francisco 49ers, unfortunately. And the balloon
it was like Brad Pitt and Troy.
now.
Like if Brad Pitt got if he got hurt in Troy, like the movie would just have to end. You get a guy like that paired with Fred Warner, and none of them have been healthy this year. So that's good news for the San Francisco 49ers. But I think this game, it's all about the Chicago Bears. And it's all about their interim head coach, Thomas Brown, and his first opportunity to make hay as a leader, the unquestioned leader of this team. It's about Caleb Williams. It's about the offense's ability to go out and start fast. What we've seen from the Chicago Bears unit is they started really slowly. But I give them credit. They've made adjustments, and their guy, Caleb Williams, does a great job of when it comes time to run that 2-minute offense. When you're down, you got to spread them out, make the right decisions. Caleb has done that. If we could find a way to get out there in San Francisco, start the game the right way, I truly believe the Chicago Bears have more than a fighting chance to go out and win this football game, Mike.
Yeah, the Niners, though, obviously means a lot more for them because they pretty much have to win out at this point. And realistically, it's going to be very difficult for them to win out. They have the Lions on their schedule still. They have the Rams, Cardinals, Dolphins after this as well. This is their easiest game of that bunch, right? This is the first step to a hopeful redemption arc, but I think we both agree that I don't see it, especially when Trent Williams not practicing yesterday, Nick Bosa not practicing yesterday. It's like you're still
that's like $300 million.
Yes, you're still not the team, and obviously Christian McCaffrey on IR not going to play the rest of the year. It's like you're still not the team that you were. You just weren't. So in this one, I'm probably not going to bet it either way, just because of all those injuries, and like we have no clue who they are, especially like the Bears interim OC. There's just like too many moving parts to feel good one way or the other. But
Who's going to be taking handoffs for San Francisco? I mean, this
Rendo?
this is a group that we've said you can plug anybody and play them at running back, but you're starting to run out of those too. So for the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to have to get creative. And I know that once the head coach gets fired, you get some new blood in there with Thomas Brown. The guys get some juice, and you start playing for next year. This feels like kind of a preseason for 2025. They're going to get an extended bye with the offseason, but guys are trying to prove themselves because they know in Chicago that they have a spark plug in Caleb, and guys want to play with him. And you know that there's going to be a lot of decisions about the roster in this offseason, and guys are trying to put their best foot forward because they don't want to miss that parade.
The irony is this is kind of exactly what they were at last year, right? Or where they were at last year, where it's just like, hey, we got to cobble this together. We're playing for next year. And then they went on a run, and that's what made everyone buy in to what the Bears could be. I don't think the run's happening, unfortunately.
6-game skid.
Just
6-game skid. This is a playoff team, in my opinion. But because of the fact that they've lost 6 straight since the Hail Mary in the ways that they have, it's just been terrible. It's been terrible to watch. Another got to see my cardiologist team with the Chicago Bears. And I feel bad for the guys, but I'm also excited because you and I both know they got a guy at quarterback, and that's all that the Bears have been asking for a very long time. So moving forward, they need to put their best foot forward in terms of roster building.
All right, Bills at Rams. Rams 4.5-point dogs at home. 49.5 points is the over/under.
Home dogs.
Are we not giving? Is Vegas not giving the Rams enough credit that this is still a real football team? And yeah, they're 6-6.
This is going to be a ball game, dude.
A lot of that started early on this season when they were playing guys we've never heard of along their offensive line, right? And now line's back healthy. Tyler Higbee back practicing this week, the tight end for Los Angeles Rams. This is a good team. It's a above 500 football team that is getting a field goal and a half at home. To me, that's almost like disrespectful. Not that I say the Rams are going to win this game, but I think they should not be 4.5-point dogs. And I'm going to be taking the Rams in this one. And I like the over as well, actually, 49.5 points. I think this is just a nice little QB versus QB matchup where ends up in the high 20s, 33-30 maybe, and we get a good game.
I totally think that Sean McVay is going to try to control that clock. You're going to want to keep Josh Allen on the sideline and uninvolved as much as possible. The real concerning thing for the Los Angeles Rams in a gotta-have-it type game is the fact that their defense will be overmatched in terms of size against this Buffalo Bills unit. We've talked about it time and time again. The Bills team can win any style of fight, and I truly believe that they're going to try to pound that rock early. And if the opportunity presents itself where that Rams defense wants to stack the box, we could be looking at some downtown Julie Brown from Josh Allen. It's going to be good weather, obviously, at SoFi. So Josh and the boys, they're going to be a lot warmer than they were last week. As much as they love playing in the cold in Buffalo, I can promise you this weather in Southern California is going to be a welcome sight for them.
All right, let's get to Chargers at Chiefs. Chiefs 3.5-point favorites. 42.5 points is the over/under. The Chiefs win this one. They are your AFC West champions yet again.
Another one.
This one playing out.
Hey, man, we said it like 8 weeks ago. First, you said the Broncos were going to be the team that could beat this Chiefs team and get them from being undefeated. And damn, you were so close. And I said the other one's the Chargers. And this Chargers team, they've really built a bully in Los Angeles. Jim Harbaugh's culture, it bleeds through into his team. And no team do I think is cut out more to go and beat the Kansas City Chiefs than the Los Angeles Chargers. I do think the Chiefs win this game, but this Chargers team I've had circled on the schedule for a long time. The left tackle spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the determining factor. Is DJ Humphries ready to go or not? And if DJ Humphries is ready to go, then I'm hammering the Chiefs. But if he's not, It's going to be a tight one, and it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be a one-score game like we've seen time and time again with this Chiefs team. I give Andy Reid a lot of credit for finding ways to win these games. You talked about Kevin O'Connell's record in one-score games. Andy Reid's got to be right there with him. But at the end of the day, protecting Patrick Mahomes, keeping him healthy, and maintaining the integrity of this offense comes down to the offensive tackle position. Patrick needs to be able to get to the top of his drop. He needs to be able to step up in the pocket and let some of these plays develop. The cavalry isn't quite all there yet. The reinforcements haven't arrived in full for the Kansas City Chiefs. But one guy that everybody in the Midwest is looking at right now is DJ Humphries to the left tackle position.
I love the Chargers in this one. No surprise there, as you might have guessed. The Chiefs just not only, I don't know if they're going to win, but the Chiefs are only playing close games right now. They haven't covered 3.5 points in 5 weeks. This team that's 11-1, but 5-7 against the spread. They are not. Vegas has kind of over-pumped them just a little bit, overinflated just a little bit how good they've been all season long. They're a very good team, but these two teams, very similarly built right now. They are defense-first teams that want to run the ball and control it with their quarterback, who they trust to not turn the ball over. They don't have
great
weapons on the outside.
Lack of real weapons.
They are so similarly built right now. Yes, it's like they are mirror images of each other. And yeah, it's at Arrowhead, and that's why you get the spread the way it is. But I don't see one team as being drastically better than the other right now. And because of that, I think it's going to be a coin flip. And I love, if I'm getting 3.5 points one way, I'll take that side.
I can't wait to watch this. Also, probably the best looking uniform matchup of the weekend. I know that the Green Bay Packers and the Lions is classic, but this matchup, the red, the powder blue, the white, the yellow, it's just a great looking combination. Beautiful. Classic AFC West matchup.
I don't know, though. I think the best jersey matchup is coming on Monday Night Football here when the Bengals meet the Cowboys. Cowboys 5.5-point dogs at home. 49.5 points is the over-under in this one. Obviously, both these teams out of it at this point. I think the Bengals technically still alive, but realistically not. My favorite bet, though, just give me the over. 49.5 points. The Bengals have been over darlings all season long. I believe they have the second most overs of any team in the NFL behind only Baltimore. That's because Baltimore's played one more game. So they've hit the over 9 out of 12 times. And I think this is another one. I think we just see points galore on the scoreboard. Who wins? I don't know. But I mean, I think the Bengals win, but 5.5 points, it could be a little tighter than that, just the way the Bengals defense has played this season. But that's why I also love the over.
Yeah, the Bengals hope it doesn't go over because they lose all the games when it becomes an over. I mean, it's like
they lose all the games anyway, dude.
This has been the most depressing year of watching a guy have an amazing season with Joe Burrow. We've talked about it week in, week out. The guy is unbelievable, and if they had a handful more wins, he would be in the conversation for MVP. It's really criminal, the fact that this Bengals team has let him down, let this offense down the way that they have. I fully anticipate him to go out there and have another great game. Joe's awesome. This offense is a lot of fun, but it's not a good football team, and that's why their record is what it is.
We know one of these head coaches will not be there next year. I think we can say that firmly. Is there any chance Zach Taylor's on the hot seat, or is it just going to be Lou Anarumo, DC, there ends up becoming the fall guy?
I mean, Lou Anarumo's a guy that we were all in love with for the last few years. And
I think he's a good DC.
Some pieces have moved around. You know what? Keep in mind, Vic Fangio got ran out of Miami too. So whether it's a personnel fit with him, time has run its course. I could totally see Lou Anarumo being the fall guy. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the business. If you're not producing as a defense, the blade is going to fall on the defensive coordinator. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And with the way this offense is playing, I don't think you can question that side of the staff.
I think the biggest, if I had to point to what's the biggest issue with the Bengals and their defense, it's not scheme to me. It's talent. And it's specifically like who they drafted for this scheme. They have tried to fit in these mismatched pieces that just don't work, whether it's Myles Murphy at defensive end, whether it was trying to make Dax Hill into a safety for 2 years when he just flat out was not a safety, and numerous other guys that they have taken in the top 3 rounds with guys like Zach Carter, who like can't see the football field along your defensive line. It's what they've done in the draft. And obviously, Duke Tobin, they technically don't have a GM, but like he is their guy who runs their personnel operations. That falls on him, but also
they said he's been there forever. He's kind of like just like grandfathered into the.
They're not firing him. But it's the disconnect between what Lou Anarumo wants to do with his defense and the pieces he's gotten. And now we don't know. We're not in those rooms. Who's making those decisions? But this big a disconnect.
It's not Lou Anarumo, obviously. Lou Anarumo's like, Tobin's like, all right, this is what you get for Christmas. Play with your toys.
That's what it seems like. And then
make it happen.
Is like, I have no clue what to do with this toy. The instructions are all in Chinese. And so
yes, exactly.
He's just can't even put the batteries in to get started.
Damn players.
So yeah, we'll see. I do expect changes though to come on this Bengals staff.
Do you think it's going to be Zach Taylor?
No, not this year. I think they just gave him an extension.
Yeah.
Now, should it be? I mean, I thought it should have been last year when Harbaugh was available. I was like, dude, just get like a dude at head coach. If they had, you flip the Ravens coaching staff with the Bengals coaching staff, and I think you see like completely flipped outcomes, right? Like they just have a staff that's so far. That's gross for what they have in terms of talent. Like when you have a Joe Burrow, you want to pair him with like a Sean McVay, right? Like you want to pair him with the elite at the head coaching position. And quite frankly,
because he is able to match that creativity and intelligence with talent and production. I mean, Joe Burrow, there's a reason they call him Joe Cool. The game just happens slower for him. He's talented enough to make it happen. But obviously that's not the case for the entirety of this roster.
All right, locks the week. I'll kick mine off. Panthers Eagles. Love the under. 45.5 points. Give me the under. Give me Christian Watson under 48.5 receiving yards tonight against the Detroit Lions. No Romeo Doubs, but I think that means more Dontavion Wicks. And Christian Watson, big playability against a slower secondary, but I think it's a run-first game plan. And I think he's such a boomer bust player that 48.5 points. He just, over the course of his career, he's like 70% under that number. So good value there. And then give me the Chargers.
It only takes 1
points. I know. I remember I tweeted out that I liked Christian Watson under on Thanksgiving last year against the Lions. First play of the game, he went over it. It was like a 60-yard pass play. First play of the game. I'm like, oh, well, that didn't go well. But hoping for a different outcome this time. Who do you got?
For me, I got Green Bay plus 3.5.
Oh,
I just feel like it's going to be a classic matchup, and obviously the injuries on the defensive side of the ball for Detroit is going to make it even closer than it should be. I fully anticipate this to be one of those classic NFC North division rivalries. Physical, low scoring, probably. Give me Green Bay 3.5. Lions could win, but that half a point, that'll save me, baby. And then I got Mike Evans going over 68.5 receiving yards. I am rooting like hell for this guy to get to 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And whatever that number is weekly, I'm going to hammer it because Baker knows he's going to make history. Mike Evans wants to make history, and I think that's really important. And then the other guy, Caleb Williams, over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think he throws 3 touchdowns against the San Francisco 49ers this week. I just feel like the guy's really tapped into his juice, and it's been a lot of fun as a Bears fan to watch, albeit the sky is falling for the most part in Chicago. This guy is not. He's rising.
Harry's got Joe Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns against the Cowboys. That one feels
That's like investing in NVIDIA. Safe. You're just going to, you're going to be okay, buddy.
There you have it. There's our preview show. We'll be back on Sunday night. Not sure who's joining me just yet. Might be Leger Duzable. Might be John Breach yet again. Sunday night breaking down the games right after they happen, right in that window between the 4 p.m. games and Sunday Night Football about 7:15, 7:20. Make sure to tune in for that. Until then, keep pushing.
Peace.